Number 60, on the 13th of May.
Just a month later.
Okay, I think we're ready to go finally.
All right.
Hello everyone, this is the 5th Ethical Revelation Fellowship for the second time. And tonight we're going to study paper 61, the Mammalian era on Urantia. And that starts on page, somebody help me here, 693.1 or 6101. And let's try this again. Tim, would you like to try the first paragraph again for me?
The era of mammals extends from the time of the origin of placental mammals to the end of the Ice Age, covering a little less than 50 million years.
It's a long time, isn't it? Alright. Let's see if this works. Yeah, okay. Who's next? Millie?
During this Cenozoic age, the world's landscape presented an attractive appearance: rolling hills, broad valleys, wide rivers, and great forests. Twice during this sector of time, the Panama Isthmus went up and down. 3 times, the Bering Strait land bridge did the same thing. The animal types were both many and varied. The trees swarmed with birds, and the whole world was an animal paradise, notwithstanding the incessant struggle of the evolving animal species for supremacy.
Okay, on that previous page they mentioned the placental animals, right?
Mhm.
So they're talking about animals that basically suckle their young and like humans has a placenta, right? There's quite a few species of that. Okay? Rodney.
The accumulated deposits of the 5 periods of this 50 million year period contain the fossil records of the successive mammalian dynasties, indeed right up through the times of the actual appearance of man himself.
50 million years. It's not just a walk in the park, is it?
It's a long time.
Hard to imagine.
1. The new continental land stage, the age of early mammals. 50 million years ago, the land areas of the world were very generally above water or only slightly submerged. The formations and deposits of this period are both land and marine, but chiefly land. For a considerable time, the land gradually rose, but was simultaneously washed down to the lower levels and towards the sea.
Okay, y'all hold up a second. Let me get the light on over here. I had to change my location. Turn it up here. Where we're having our meeting, so I forgot to put the light back up. Apparently one of the cats knocked it down. Excuse me for a second. We're just all kinds of organized tonight, right? This actually broken.
Yay!
I promise y'all, I will get organized in here again.
Yeah, we had to move our office into the garage and into our bedrooms, and so now we're in the living room to accommodate his mother, so it's kind of been, well, it's a bit chaotic. I'm not even here yet.
That does not sound good.
Yeah,
Just leave it like that, honey, I'll get it.
it's going to show up on the phone. Okay, let's try this. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all at home have to see all this.
It's a light show.
You won't be able to see me. It's about 20 minutes here. Okay. Somebody read the next one, please.
That'd be you.
No, somebody else.
Oh, somebody, okay, Tim.
1. The new continental land stage, the age of early mammals. 50 million years ago, the land areas of the world were very generally above water or only slightly submerged.
I just read that, Tim, I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's one early in this period
No,
in,
you
in
didn't.
North America.
Yes, I did.
The placental type of mammals suddenly appeared, and they constituted the most important evolutionary development up to this time. Previous orders of non-placental mammals had existed, but this new type sprang directly and suddenly from the pre-existent reptilian ancestor, whose descendants have persisted on down through the times of dinosaur decline. The father of the placental mammals was small, highly active, carnivorous, springing type of dinosaur.
So it actually came from a springing dinosaur, was the very first placental type of mammal, and all the placental type mammals, including us, were descendants of that.
Or the reptile.
It's kind of interesting. Of course, the dinosaurs were totally gone by the time we got
My great-grandfather was started school.
here. Okay. Who's next?
Millie.
Millie?
Trying to turn my speaker on. Here we go. Basic mammalian instincts began to be manifested in these primitive mammalian types. Mammals possess an immense survival advantage over all other forms of animal life in that they can, 1, bring forth relatively mature and well-developed offspring, 2, nourish, nurture, and protect their offspring with affectionate regard, 3, employ their superior brain power in self-perpetuation, 4, utilize increased agility in escape from enemies, 5, apply superior intelligence to environmental adjustment and adaptation.
Okay, so that's all the things, the 5 things that makes placental mammals better, right? Rodney?
Okay, 35 million years ago, the continental backbones were elevated in association with a very general sinking of the coastlines. Mammalian life was evolving rapidly. A small reptilian, egg-laying type of mammal flourished, and the ancestors of the later kangaroos roamed Australia. Soon there were small horses, fleet-footed rhinoceroses, tapers with proboscises, primitive pigs, squirrels, lemurs, possums, and several tribes of monkey-like animals. They were all small, primitive, and best suited to living among the forests of the mountain regions. A large ostrich-like land bird developed to a height of 10 feet and laid an egg 9 by 13 inches. These were the ancestors of the later gigantic passenger birds that were so highly intelligent and at one time transported human beings through the air.
That's interesting, isn't
So, hey, Roger, I had a question.
it? Yeah.
On the lemurs, we're not talking about the lemurs of today, but we're talking about a primitive type. Does this go back to the 45 million years that link up to us?
Yes, it does. And we are the ancestors of us were the primitive lemurs, not today's lemurs, but the early lemurs. We are a branch from the lemurs. So the lemurs were a mammal, and so that's where we sprung from, was the lemurs themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Mammals of the early Cenozoic lived on land, under the water, in the air, and among the treetops. They had from 1 to 11 pairs of mammary glands, and all were covered with considerable hair. In common with the later appearing order, they developed 2 successive sets of teeth and possessed large brains in comparison to body size. but among them all no modern forms existed.
We're gonna see this era in a minute here. Who's that, me? 40,000 million years ago, the land areas of the northern hemisphere began to elevate, and this was followed by new extensive land deposits and other terrestrial activities, including lava flows, warping, lake formation, and erosion.
What is warping?
Just the general warping of the land itself, kind of like plate tectonics.
Oh, okay.
Tim, I believe you're.
During the later part of this epoch, most of Europe was submerged. Following a slight land raise, the continent was covered by lakes and bays. The Arctic Ocean through the Boreal Depression ran south to connect with the Mediterranean Sea, as it was then expanded northward. The highlands of the Alps. How do you pronounce that?
Carpathians.
Carpathians.
Yeah.
And then the next one, Apennines.
Yeah, and Pyrenees.
And Pyrenees began up above the water as islands of the sea. The
Isthmus of Panama.
Isthmus of Panama was up. The Atlantic and Pacific oceans were separated. North America was connected with Asia by the Bering Strait land bridge and with Europe by way of Greenland and Iceland. The Earth's circuit of land in northern latitudes was broken only by the
Ural Straits.
Ural Straits, which connected the Arctic seas with the enlarged Mediterranean.
So
Hey
everything-
Roger, what do they mean by Earth circuits? Because they use the word circuits a lot in this book, and now they're saying Earth circuits.
Let me see what, oh, they're just talking about the grouping of the land. You know, during this period of time, or you remember when we read about how the continents were separating? That's really what they're talking about, the circuits of the continents. You know, there was, for long periods of time, land masses that connected them, like the straits and things like that. Like in Panama, the Panama was connected to South America, and North America was connected. And, you know, they started to break apart, and that's what they're talking about when they call circuits of land.
Okay, thank you.
Millie, I think you're up.
Okay. Considerable foraminiferal limestone was deposited in European waters. Today, the same stone is elevated to a height of 10,000 feet in the Alps, 16,000 feet in the Himalayas, and 20,000 feet in Tibet. The chalk deposits of this period were found along the coast of Africa and Australia, on the west coast of South America, and about the West Indies.
So now you know where all these large mountain ranges come from, right? From these large salt.
I don't know that word that I read, foraminiferal.
Foraminiferal limestone.
That's a type of limestone.
A forum, what they're talking about here is limestone that's holy. It's got holes in it. A formal is a type of hole. Okay, so what they're talking about is limestone that had holes in it, basically.
Like Swiss cheese?
Like Swiss cheese. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Interesting, I didn't know that either.
Okay, foraminiferal, you have to remember that word.
Foraminiferal. Yeah, it's hard to say.
I got a word coming up here too. Throughout the so-called Eocene
Ocene? Yeah.
period, the evolution of mammalian and other related forms of life continued with little or no interruption. North America was then connected by land with every continent except Australia. And the world was gradually opened up by primitive mammalian fauna of various types.
Okay, so there it is. So North America was connected to every land mass except Australia. Australia separated early and became an island to itself very, very early. Okay?
And isn't it true that we read that Australia was also one of the three places on Earth that they injected lava?
Yeah, it was, but remember, Australia's got different animal species that's not found on other parts of the world because of the
That's what I mean, because it developed separately.
That's right, that's right. That's why we don't have kangaroos in North America except the ones in the zoo, right?
Yeah, they don't have moose animals either.
That's
I have
right.
a question.
Huh? Yeah,
So this is all basically observation by a light carrier.
this is
what
all,
you've seen.
that's right, all observation by life carrier. Now, another interesting thing about this, Tim, is they record everything that happens on a planet. So the history of Urantia, the history of our Earth, has been recorded in documents or another form, probably like a movie, that when we get to the mansion worlds, we can review the entire history of our planet that we came from.
That's
So
wonderful.
nothing is really lost. And that's what part of the mission of the Urantia book is to reintroduce to us the things that were lost over time that people did not remember, right?
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see who's up. Millie?
No, I think it's time.
Oh, excuse me. 2. The recent flood stage, the age of advanced mammals. This period was characterized by the further and rapid evolution of placenta mammals, the more progressive forms of mammalian life developing during these times.
Now, what they consider rapid is not what we consider rapid.
Yeah, millions and millions and
Millions of
right?
years. That's right. Let's keep going. Who's that?
They do it.
Okay. Early placental mammals sprang from carnivorous
Carnivorous.
ancestors. Very soon, herbivorous branches, in other words, meat eaters and plant eaters, branches developed. And ere long, omnivorous mammalian families also sprang up. Now, what is that? The
It's
omnivorous.
both.
That's both, right? They eat meat and vegetables.
Okay, yes, right.
Yeah.
Carnivorous and
Carnivorous.
herbivorous.
And that's what we are now.
That's right. The angiosperms were the principal food of the rapidly increasing mammals. The modern land flora, including the majority of the present-day plants and trees, have appeared during the earlier periods.
So what is angiosperm?
Angiosperms are basically the building blocks of all plant life, bacteria, things like that. Spore, which is another type of thing, can last for thousands of years and regerminate and start again. So these angiosperms were basically the breakdown of the flora or the plant life of the planet, and that's what everyone survived on, okay, along with the meat.
Probably easier to eat.
Yeah.
Maybe tastier.
Tim, I think.
35,000 million years ago.
35 billion.
35 million.
Okay?
Okay, Tim, make up your mind. Which one is it?
I heard that from Roger. I'm just following his answer.
Listen, I'm allowed to be tongue-tied, you're not. So.
Okay, 35 million years ago marks the beginning of the age of placental mammalian world
Domination.
domination.
Uh-huh.
Domination. The southern land bridge was extensive, reconnecting the enormous Antarctic
Antarctic continent.
Antarctic continent with South America, South Africa, and Australia. In spite of the massing
Massing of land.
of land in high latitudes, the world climate remained relatively mild because of the enormous increase in the size of the tropic seas nor was the land elevated sufficiently to produce glaciers. Extensive lava flows occurred in Greenland and Iceland, southern coal being deposited between these layers.
Want to hear an interesting side note?
Greenland and Iceland are so cold now, I can't imagine lava flows.
That's right, that's right. The Antarctic continent is basically as large as Africa, Africa and South America together. So that the Antarctic landmass is huge. And this is before it was frozen, right? So, because it was not elevated enough to create peaks and things like that, to create glaciers and ice storms and things like that. So at this point in time, the Antarctic was probably just like South America or any other tropical area. So, which is kind of interesting to think about it. Okay.
Marked changes were taking place in the fauna of the planet. The sea life was undergoing great modification. Most of the present-day orders of marine life were in existence, and foraminifers continued to play an important role. The insect life was much like that of the present era. The of the previous era. Sorry about that. The Floresian fossil of Colorado belonged to the later years of these far distant times. Most of the living insects familiar families go back to this period, but many then in existence are now extinct, though their fossils remain.
Wouldn't it hurt my feelings if more of those would become extinct?
We have enough insect families.
That's right. Rodney, I believe you're next.
On land, this was pre-imitating age of mammalian renovation and expansion of the earlier more primitive mammals. Over 100 species were extinct before this period ended. Even the mammals of large size and small brain soon perished. Brains and agility had replaced armor and size in the progress of animal survival. And with the dinosaur family on the decline, the mammals slowly assumed domination of the earth, speedily and completely destroying the remaining of their
Reptilian ancestors. So the ones that didn't starve to death were eaten by the later mammals, right? They're kind of
Smart ones.
the smart ones.
But you know, it's interesting because they say that the extinction of the dinosaurs was a result of 65 million years ago, you know, from like a meteorite.
Yeah, and that's not true.
But what happened when that meteorite hit? I mean, how did
Well, we had lots of meteorites hit that probably caused enormous devastation in certain areas. But it wasn't a meteorite hit that killed off the dinosaurs, and that's what all the science people
Yeah.
try to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it so many times, I still
Yeah.
have to put it out of my mind.
Yeah, I've said that over and over because it plainly says here that they did not die from a meteor strike. They died from starvation, basically. And the ones that didn't die from starvation, the later carnivores came along and ate them all.
And that was the paper we read before this one.
That's
Right.
right. And this, as we know, was well before man. Man was not even around. So the ones that ate them were the other type of mammals that were on the planet during that period of time, right?
I think Tim got brought up. I think we lost it.
We lose Tim.
We might have to call it.
Oh, yeah, we did.
You know how to drag him over? Try to call him back. He may have lost his.
Here he is. Tim, he's online.
Okay.
What will I do?
Over there in my list of contacts, click and drag it over to the screen where everybody else is. That should come. No. Excuse me, Danielle. This is one of those nights.
Hello, we're back. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
I don't have my charger and my computer and everything just shut off.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I forgot. I had everything else hooked up.
Okay,
Yeah, power thing.
I understand, it's happening.
who's up to read?
So who's up to read?
I think you are, Tim.
Where am I at?
Along with the
I
disappearance
just
of...
read it, so I think it's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not keeping up. Along with the disappearance of the dinosaurs, other and great changes occurred in the various branches of the saurian family. The surviving members of the early reptilian families are turtles, snakes, and crocodiles, together with the venerable frog, the only remaining group representative of man's earlier ancestors.
People just love to hear we came from frogs. I believe I'm up next. Various groups of mammals had their origin in a unique animal now extinct. This
Carnivorous.
having all kinds of fun with this word. Carnivorous creatures was something of a cross between a cat and a seal.
Oh, yeah.
So we all are ancestors. It could
You get
live,
some seals in this house.
yeah, it could live on land or in water and was highly intelligent and very active. In Europe, the ancestor of the canine family evolved soon, giving rise to many species of small dogs. About the same time, the gnawing rodents, including beavers, squirrels, gophers, mice, and rabbits, appeared and soon became a notable form of life. Very little change having since occurred in this family. The later deposits of this period contain the fossils, remains of dogs, cats, coons, weasels, and in ancestral form. Okay.
And
I just ran through it,
that was
Yep.
35 million
Raccoon.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
it's funny they said foods instead of raccoons.
Yeah.
Okay, 30 million years ago, the modern types of mammals began to make their appearance. Formerly, the mammals had lived, for the greater part, in the hills, being at the mountaintops.
Mountainous type.
Yeah, mountainous types. Suddenly, there began the elevation of the plans and hoopted type, the grazing species, as differentiated from the clawed flesh eaters. These grazers sprang from an undifferentiated ancestor having 5 toes and 44 teeth, which perished before the end of the age. Toe evolution did not progress beyond the 3-toed stage throughout this period.
Okay, so think about this for just a second. I'm not going to dwell on it too long, but what they're talking about is the hoof-based animals, like horses, cows, things like that.
Goats.
These are grazers. They don't need claws because they don't eat meat, right? They graze on plants and grasses and things like that. But the meat eaters or flesh eaters, all those species ended up with claws because they had to claw the meat apart to be able to eat it. Make sense? So it's funny how they evolved with the right equipment according to what they preferred to eat. Isn't it? All right.
Like food.
Yeah.
The horse, an outstanding example of evolution, lived during these times in both North America and Europe, though his development was not fully completed until the later Ice Age, while the rhinoceros family appeared at the close of this period. It underwent its greatest expansion subsequently. A small hog-like creature also developed, which became the ancestor of the many species of swine, pecaries, and hippopotamuses. Camels and llamas had their origin in North America about the middle of this period and overran the western plains. Later, the llamas migrated to South America, the camels to Europe, and soon both were extinct in North America, though a few camels survived up to the Ice Age.
So you see camels, it's hard to imagine that they, or their origin came from North America, and so did the llamas. And it's even more interesting that people have brought llamas back to North America, and they're very comfortable here.
It
Yeah.
is. Okay, about this time, a notable thing occurred in western North America. The early ancestors of ancient lemurs first made their appearance. While this family cannot be regarded as true lemurs, their coming marked the establishment of the line from which the true lemurs subsequently sprang.
Like the land serpents of a previous age which betook themselves to the seas, now a whole tribe of placenta mammals deserted the land and took up their residence in the oceans, and they have ever since remained in the sea, yielding the modern whales, dolphins, porpoises, seals, and sea lions.
So that's how the mammals ended up back in the sea, right? In the sea. The bird life of the planet continued to develop, but with few important evolutionary changes. The majority of modern birds were existent, including gulls, herons, flamingos, buzzards, falcons, eagles, owls, quails, and ostriches. So they were there back then. They're still around, right?
By the close of this, how do you pronounce that?
Oligocene period.
Oligocene period covered 10 million years. The plant life together with the marine life and the land animals had very largely evolved and was presently on Earth much as today. Considerable specialization has subsequently appeared, but the ancestral fruitfulness of most living things within a life.
Okay. So between 35 and 25 million years ago, all the animals were pretty much from the planet that we know of today, right?
Number 3, the modern mountain stage age of the elephant and the horse. Land elevation and sea segregation were slowly changing the world weather, gradually cooling it, but the climate was still mild. Sequoias and magnolias grew in greenland, but the subtropical plants were beginning to migrate southward. By the end of this period, these warm climate plants and trees had largely disappeared from the northern latitudes, their places being taken by more hardy plants and the deciduous trees.
There was a great increase in the varieties of grasses, and the teeth of many mammalian species gradually altered to conform to the present-day grazing type.
And that's why the grazing type animals have more flat teeth, right? Because they're grazers, it helps to crunch up the leaves. The meat eaters basically have sharp teeth so they can break up the meat, right? It's funny how Mother Nature just changed what they're using.
25 million years ago, there was a slight land submergence following the long epoch of land elevation. The Rocky Mountain region remained highly elevated so that the deposition of erosion material continued throughout the lowlands to the east. The Sierras were well re-elevated. In fact, they have been rising ever since. The Great 4-Mile Vertical Fault in the California region dates from this time.
It's no fault of its own. All right. 20 million years ago was indeed the golden age of mammals. The Bering Strait land bridge was up, and many groups of animals migrated to North America from Asia, including the four-tusted mastodons, four-legged rhinoceroses, and many varieties of the family.
The first deer appeared in North America was soon overrun by ruminants, deer, oxen, camels, bison, and several species of rhinoceroses. But the giant pig, more than 6 feet tall, became extinct.
How about that? We once had a giant pig.
Kind of like a hedgehog, right?
Huh?
Kind of like a hedgehog.
Yeah, but they were 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Man,
Oh,
that's a huge pig.
you can get some ribs off of that one.
That's right. One rib lasts you a week. Anyway.
The huge elephants of this and subsequent periods possessed large brains and as well as large bodies, and they soon overran the entire world except Australia. For once, the world was dominated by a huge animal with a brain sufficiently large to enable it to carry on. Confronted by the highly intelligent life of these ages, no animal the size of an elephant could have survived unless it had possessed a brain large enough and superior, of large size and superior quality. In intelligence and adaptation, the elephant is approached only by the horse and is surpassed only by man himself. Even so, of the 50 species of elephants in existence at the opening of this period, only 2 have survived.
And they've almost been wiped out by whom?
There were 50 species of elephant.
Yeah.
50.
Man is their worst enemy, right? Because people still hunt them for the tusk.
And they're so large, they don't have anywhere to hide.
That's right.
Say, 15 million years ago, the mountain regions of Eurasia, and there was volcanic activity throughout these regions. Nothing comparable to
Rodney, can I mention something on these slides? You can't see the slide. This is, I'm not going to read these. They're out there for y'all to read. This is the different epics and stuff. I just wanted to mention it. Okay. Go ahead, Rodney.
Okay, and but nothing comparable to the lava flows of the Western Hemisphere. These unsettled conditions prevail all over the world.
The Strait of Gibraltar closed, and Spain was connected with Africa by the old land bridge, but the Mediterranean flowed into the Atlantic through a narrow channel which extended across France, the mountain peaks and highlands appearing as islands above this ancient sea. Later on, these European seas began to withdraw. Still later, the Mediterranean was connected with the Indian Ocean, while at the close of this period, the Sioux region was elevated so that the Mediterranean became, for a time, an inland salt sea.
It's the Suez.
Suez. region.
Suez.
Like Suez Canal.
Suez.
The Iceland land bridge submerged and the Arctic waters commingled with those of the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic coast of North America rapidly cooled, but the Pacific coast remained warmer than at present. The great ocean currents were in function and affected climate much as they do today. And that's why the Atlantic is warm and the Pacific is cool.
Mammalian life continued to evolve. Enormous herds of horses joined the camels on the western plains of North America. This was truly the age of horses as well as of elephants. The horse's brain was next in animal quality to that of the elephant, but in one respect, it is
Decidedly.
decidedly inferior, for the horse never fully overcame the deep-seated propensity to flee when frightened. The horse lacks the emotional control of the elephant, while the elephant is greatly handicapped by his size and lack of agility. During this period, an animal evolved which was somewhat like both the elephant and the horse, but it was soon destroyed by the rapidly increasingly cat family.
Yeah. And this is, I used to have text, because here we go, marble relief of it, a youth with his horse and dog. It's the wilderness.
As Urantia was entering the so-called horseless age, you should pause and ponder what this animal meant to your ancestors. Men first used horses for food, then for travel, and later in agriculture and war. The horse has long served mankind and has played an important part in the development of human civilization.
Yes, it is.
And this is another
The
picture.
biologic
Prancing
octopus
horse.
Australia contributed
This is
much
the
more.
Indian knight with a horse, and this is a Chinese horse. This is the skull of the earliest known horse, about 54 million years ago. Okay.
Sorry about that. The biological developments of this period contributed much toward setting up the stage for the subsequent appearance of man. In Central Asia, the true types of both the primitive monkey and the gorilla evolved, having a common ancestor now extinct. But neither of these species is concerned in the line of living beings which formed later on to become the ancestors of the human race.
The dog family was represented by several groups, notably wolves and foxes. The cat tribe by panthers and large saber-toothed tigers, the later first evolving in North America. The modern cat and dog families increased in numbers all over the world. Weasels, martens, otters, and raccoons thrived and developed throughout the northern latitudes. So they're considered part of the dog family, the raccoons
Yeah, the raccoons.
and weasels.
Yeah, weasels, things like that. And it's interesting that the dog and cat families, dog and cat families are overrunning our planet because we made them pets, right? And they're no longer out to have to fend for themselves and get eaten by other animals as much as they have. And then that's what comes up with this fallacy. People think that cats can survive out on their own, but they have very short lives when they're out on their own. And dogs would be the same way. If they're wild, they have very short lives because of all the things that can happen when you die of starvation too. Okay, am I up next? The birds continue to evolve, though few marked changes occur. Reptiles are similar to modern types, snakes, crocodiles, and turtles.
It's funny, I never thought of turtles at that time.
Thus drew to a close a very eventful and interesting period of the world's history. This age of the elephant and the horse is known as the
Miocene.
Miocene.
Yes.
4. The recent continental elevation stage, the last great mammalian migration. This is the period of pre-glacial land elevation in North America, Europe, and Asia. The land was greatly altered and
Yeah.
in topography. Mountain ranges were born, streams changed their course, and isolated volcanoes broke out all over the world. We're still doing it today.
Yeah.
Okay, 10 million years ago began an age of widespread local land deposits on the lowlands of the continents. But most of these sedimentations were later removed. Much of Europe at this time was still underwater, including parts of England, Belgium, and France, and the Mediterranean Sea covered much of the northern Africa. In North America, extensive deposits were made at the mountain bases, in lakes, and in the great land basins. These deposits average only about 200 feet, are more or less colored, and fossils are rare. Two great freshwater lakes existed in western North America. The Sierras were elevated. Shasta, Hood, and Rainier were beginning their mountain careers. But it was not until the subsequent ice age that North America began its creep toward the Atlantic depression.
That's those plates moving, right?
For a short time, all the land of the world was again joined, excepting Australia, and the last great worldwide animal migration took place. North America was connected with both South America and Asia, and there was a free exchange of animal life. Asiatic sloths, armadillos, antelopes, and bears entered North America, while North American camels went to China. Rhinoceroses migrated over the whole world except Australia and South America, but they were extinct in the Western Hemisphere by the close of this period.
Interesting how these animals come and go quickly. In general, the life of the preceding period continued to evolve and spread. The cat family dominated animal life, and marine life was almost at a standstill. Many of the horses were still three-toed, but the modern types were arriving. Llamas, giraffe-like camels mingled with the horses on the grazing plain. The giraffe appeared in Africa, having just a long neck as then now. In South America, sloths, armadillos, anteaters, and South American type of primitive monkeys evolved. Before the continents were finally isolated, those massive animals, the mastodons, migrated everywhere except Australia.
5 million years ago, the horse evolved as it is now. It now is, and from North America migrated to all the world. But the horse had become extinct on the continent of its origin long before the red men arrived.
Isn't that interesting? So the horse was in North America, and then it was brought back by man, right?
The climate was gradually getting cooler. The land plants were slowly moving southward. At first, it was the increasing cold in the north that stopped animal migration over the northern isthmuses. Subsequently, these North American land bridges went down. Soon afterwards, the land connection between Africa and South America finally submerged, and the Western Hemisphere was isolated much as it is today. From this time forward, distinct types of life began to develop in the eastern and western hemispheres.
That's because they were no longer connected, right?
And thus does this period of almost 10 million years, Urantia walked through the waters, and not yet has the ancestor of man appeared. This is the time usually designated as the
Pliocene period, yeah, the P silent.
times.
5. The Early Ice Age. By the close of the preceding period, the lands of the northeastern part of North America and of northern Europe were highly elevated on an extensive scale. In North America, vast areas rising up to 30,000 feet or more. Mild climates had formerly prevailed over these northern regions, and the Arctic waters were all open to evaporation, and they continued to be ice-free until almost the close of the glacial period.
Isn't that interesting? Antarctica stayed freeze until without any ice into almost the close of the glacial period, which is kind of interesting. Simultaneously with these land elevations, the ocean current shifted, and the seasonal winds changed their direction. These conditions eventually produced an almost constant precipitation of moisture from the movement of the heavily saturated atmosphere over the northern highlands. Snow began to fall on these elevated and therefore cool regions, and it continued to fall until it had attained a depth of 20,000 feet. The areas of these great depths of snow, together with altitude, determined the central points of subsequent glacial pressure flows, and the ice age persisted just as long as this excessive precipitation continued to cover these northern highlands with this enormous mantle of snow, and soon metamorphoses into solid but creeping ice. That's where the glaciers come from.
great ice sheets of this period were all located on elevated highlands, not in mountainous regions where they are found today. One half of the glacier ice was in North America, 1/4 in Eurasia, and 1/4 elsewhere, chiefly in Antarctica. Africa was little affected by the ice, but Australia was almost covered with the Antarctic ice blanket.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, this is quite a revealing paper if you really think through it.
The northern regions of this world have experienced 6 separate and distinct ice invasions, although there were scores of advances and recessions associated with the activity of each individual ice sheet. The ice in North America collected in 2 and later 3 centers. Greenland was covered, and Iceland was completely buried beneath the ice floe. In Europe, the ice at various times covered the British Isles, excepting the coast of southern England, and it overspread western Europe down to France.
Two million years ago, the first North American glacier started southern Japan. The ice age is now in the making, and this glacier consumed nearly 1 million years in its effects from and retreat back the northern pressure centers. The central ice sheet extended south as far as Kansas. The eastern and western ice centers were not then so extensive.
$1,500,000 years ago, the first great glacier was retreating northward. In the meantime, enormous quantities of snow had been falling on Greenland and on the northeastern part of North America, and ere long this eastern ice mass began to flow southward. This was a second invasion of the ice.
These first 2 ice invasions were not extensive in Eurasia. During these early epochs of Ice Age, North America was overrun with mastodon, woolly mammoths, horses, camels, deers, musk oxen, bison, ground sloths, giant beavers, saber-toothed tigers, sloths as large as elephants, and many groups of the cat and dog families. But from this time forward, they were rapidly reduced in numbers by the increasing cold of the glacial period. Toward the close of the Ice Age, the majority of these animal species were extinct in North America. You could just about find any of these probably as fossil form, right?
Away from the ice, the land water life of the world was little changed between the ice invasions. The climate was about as mild as at present, perhaps a little warmer. The glaciers were, after all, local phenomena, though they spread out to cover enormous areas. The coastwise climate varied greatly between the time of the glacial in action in those times, when enormous icebergs were sliding off the coast of Maine into the Atlantic, slipping out through
Puget.
Puget.
Yes.
In Washington.
Puget
Sound.
Sound, Washington State, Puget Sound.
Puget Sound into the Pacific and thundering down northwest Norwegian
Fjords.
fjords into the North Sea.
I lived for a while in Washington State. That's how I knew about Puget Sound.
That's right.
Number 6, primitive man in the Ice Age. The great event of this glacial period was the evolution of primitive man. Slightly to the west of India, on land, now underwater, and among the offspring of Asiatic migrants of the older North American lemur types, the dawn mammals suddenly appeared. Suddenly. These small animals walked mostly on their hind legs and they possess large brains in proportion to their size and in comparison with the brains of other animals. In the 70th generation of this order of life, a new and higher group of animals suddenly differentiated. These new mid-mammals, almost twice the size and height of their ancestors and possessing proportionately increased brain power, had only well established themselves when the primates, the third vital mutation, suddenly appeared. At this same time, a retrograde development within the mid-mammal stock gave origin to the simian ancestry.
Monkeys, right? The monkeys, basically.
And from
Simian.
that day to this, the human branch has gone forward by primitive evolution,
Like the present,
progressive evolution, while the simian tribes have remained stationary or have actually retrogressed.
So that's when the monkeys split off and humans split off, right? Two different directions.
Cute.
hey, 1 million years ago, Urantia was registered as an inhabited world. A mutation within the stock of the progressive primates suddenly produced two primitive human beings, the actual ancestors of mankind.
So it's exactly 1 million years ago, the very first couple of humans existed, right?
That's easy enough to remember, right?
Yep.
Well, I wouldn't say it's exactly, but I would say it's a million.
Yeah.
This event occurred at about the time of the beginning of the third glacial advance. Thus, it may be seen that your early ancestors were born and bred in a stimulating, invigorating, and difficult environment, and the sole survivors of these Urantia aborigines, the Eskimos, even now prefer to dwell in frigid northern climates.
So the Eskimos are the ancestor of the early aborigines of Urantia, right?
Yes.
Human beings were not present in the Western Hemisphere until near the close of the Ice Age. But during the interglacial epochs, they passed westward around the Mediterranean and soon overran the continent Europe. In caves of Western Europe may be found human bones mingled with the remains of both tropic and Arctic animals, testifying that man lived in these regions throughout the later epochs of the advancing and retiring glaciers. Retreating glaciers, I'm sorry.
7. The continuing ice age. Throughout the glacial period, other activities were in progress, but the action of the ice overshadows all other phenomena in the northern latitudes. No other terrestrial activity leaves such characteristic evidence on the topography. The distinctive boulders and surface cleavages, such as potholes, lakes, displaced stone and rock, flour are to be found in connection with no other phenomenon in nature. The ice is also responsible for those gentle swells or surface undulations, known as
Drumlins.
And a glacier, as it advances, displaces rivers and changes the whole face of the earth. Glaciers alone leave behind them those telltale drifts, the ground, lateral, and terminal moraines. These drifts, particularly the ground moraines, extend from the eastern seaboard north and westward in North America and are found in Europe and Siberia.
So this is how the ice literally molds and shapes our topography in the world, right?
It's like giant buildings.
That's right. Okay.
Yes. 750,000 years ago, the fourth ice sheet a union of North American, Central, and Eastern ice fields, was well on its way south. At its height, it reached to southern Illinois, displacing the Mississippi River 50 miles to the west. And in the east, it extended as far south as the Ohio River and central Pennsylvania.
Interesting how these guys recorded exactly where it was, isn't it?
And it's interesting they did it in English.
Yeah.
In Asia, the Siberian ice sheet made its southernmost migration, while in Europe the advancing ice swept just short of the mountain barrier of the Alps.
If it hadn't, it may have just carved off the Alps.
500,000 years ago, during the fifth advance of the ice, a new development accelerated the course of human evolution. Suddenly, and in one generation, the six colored races mutated from the aboriginal human stock. This is a doubly important date since it also marks the arrival of the planetary prince.
Okay, so this is very, very important to us, right? In one family, all six colored races mutated from one single family. And normally that does not happen. It usually happens in different families. But on our planet, probably because it's an experimental planet, they all came from one family. That's also very important is 1,000 years ago is when Calagasta arrived, right? And the Calagasta 100 to start helping the Aborigines or the inhabitants of the planet to learn how to do basic things, right? To take hides and make clothes out of them, to build fires, and animal husbandry and how to plant and things like that. That's what the Calagasta 100 did, and started their first early concept of the God the Father, okay, with them. Right?
So yeah, 500,000 years went by.
500,000 years, because the first 250,000, remember, Calagasta was loyal, right? It was into 250,000 years into his stay that he rebelled with Lucifer and Satan, right? So, okay. And then it was quite a bit longer after that Adam and Eve arrived, which was 39,500 years ago, I think it was. Right? Okay. Did you have another question, Robin?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Who's up? You just read it?
Ronnie just read, right?
Okay. In North America, the advancing fifth, oh, I just read that. No, I didn't. In North America, the advancing fifth glacial consisted of a combined invasion by all three ice centers. The eastern lobe, however, extended only a short distance below the St. Lawrence Valley, and the western ice sheet made little southern advance. But the central lobe reached south to cover most of the state of Iowa. In Europe, this invasion of the ice was not so extensive as the preceding one.
250,000 years ago, the sixth and last glaciation began. And despite the fact that the northern highlands had begun to sink slightly, this was the period of the greatest snow deposition on the northern ice fields.
In this invasion, three great ice sheets, how do you pronounce that,
Coalesced.
coalesced into one vast ice mass, and all of the western mountains participated in the glacial activity. This was the largest of all ice invasions in North America. The ice moved south over 1,500 miles from its pressure centers, and North America experienced its lowest temperatures.
200,000 years ago, during the advance of the last glacier, there occurred an episode which had much to do with the march of events on Urantia, the Lucifer Rebellion.
The most important thing to happen to our planet, because we went into rebellion at that point, right?
Yes.
Well, it took 300,000 years.
Pardon me?
That happened. Okay, 150,000 years ago, the sixth and It was not sheep crossing just over the Canadian border, but central coming down into Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. The eastern sheep advancing south and covering the greater portion of Pennsylvania and Ohio.
So you could draw these out on a map if you had inclined to do so.
I'm sure geologists have done it.
Yeah.
This is a glacier that sent forth the many tongues, or ice loaves, which carved out the present-day lakes, great and small. During its retreat, the North American system of Great Lakes was produced, and Urantian geologists have very accurately deduced the various stages of this development, and have correctly surmised that these bodies of waters did, at different times, empty first into the Mississippi Valley, then eastward into the Hudson Valley, and finally by a northern route into the St. Lawrence. It is 37,000 years since the connected Great Lakes system began to empty out over the present Niagara route.
That's interesting. Go to Niagara Falls, you know, it's 37,000 years ago is when it started.
It's magnificent too.
Yeah. 100,000 years ago, during the retreat of the last great glacier, the vast polar ice sheets began to form. This is the poles, right? And the center of ice accumulation moved considerably northward. And as the polar regions continued to be covered with ice, it is hardly possible for another glacial age to occur, regardless of the future land elevations or modifications of ocean currents. And it's because of this glacial ice sheet over the poles that it will stay that way.
This last glacier was 100,000 years advancing and required a light span of time to complete its northern retreat. The temperature regions have been free from the ice for a little over 50,000 years.
Not been that long, have it?
The rigorous glacial period destroyed many species and radically changed numerous others. Many were sorely sifted out by the to and fro migration, which was made necessary by the advancing and retreating ice. Those animals which followed the glaciers back and forth over the land were the bear, bison, reindeer, musk ox, mammoth, and mastodon.
The mammoth sought open prairies, but mastodon preferred the shelter fringes of the forest regions. The mammoth, until a late date, ranged from Mexico to Canada. The Siberian variety became wool covered. The mastodon persisted in North America until exterminated by the redneck, much as the white man later killed off the bison.
Okay, so they killed off the mastodon for food, where the bison was killed off for profit, right? So,
In North America, during the last glaciation, the horse, tapir, llama, and saber-toothed tiger became extinct. In their places, sloths, armadillos, and water hogs came up from South America.
the enforced migration of life before the advancing ice led to an extraordinary commingling of plants and of animals. With the retreat of the final ice invasion, many arctic species of both plant and animal were left stranded high upon certain mountain peaks, whither they had sojourned to escape destruction by the glacier. And so today, these dislocated plants and animals may be found high up on the Alps of Europe and even on the Appalachian Mountains in North America.
And that's true, you know, Penguin's Bend in Tennessee, the highest mountain in Tennessee, has tundra on top of it.
Yeah.
Roger, the course of paper 61 is about to be completed.
That's right.
Okay, the Ice Age is the last completed geologic period, the so-called, how do you pronounce that?
Pleistocene age.
Pleistocene.
years ago marks the termination of the Great Ice Age, excepting in the polar regions of the planet. This date is also significant in that it approximates the arrival of a material son and daughter, and the beginning of the Adamic dispensation, roughly corresponding to the beginning of the Holocene or post-glacial period.
So it was right at the post-glacial end that Adam and Eve arrived, right?
This narrative, extending from the rise of mammalian life to the retreat of the ice and on down to historic times, covers a span of almost 50 million years. This is the last, the current geologic period, and it's known to researchers as
Cenozoic.
Cenozoic.
Cenozoic or
Recent
recent
times.
times era.
That's right.
This paper was sponsored by Leslie Life Period.
Hallelujah, we made
Wow.
it through it. Y'all at home have to be informed of what we're talking about, the curse of this paper. We've been trying to do this paper for how many weeks now? Four?
A month.
Four weeks.
The paper on the 13th of May.
Yeah, and I had computer problems, then we had to move my office, because my mother's coming to live with us, she got injured, and we just had a hard time, and the computer, both my computers went out at the same
I
time.
had to take and get them repaired.
And then tonight, the main computer went off as we started tonight, so it's been like this one thing after another trying to get through this paper. But we made it tonight, we're going to do another one next week, so please come join us again. Let's say a little prayer and close for tonight. We didn't even say a prayer opening up, I was so rattled from the computer going on. Dear, would you like to close us in prayer tonight?
Yes. Dearest Father, Mother God, we thank you so very much for allowing us to complete this paper, paper 61. Thank you for allowing us to have receptive minds and thoughts so that we can process this and categorize it within ourselves, and also be of assistance to others as we discuss the different periods that our Earth, Urantia, has gone through. We thank you for Roger's patience and fortitude and persistence in allowing himself to be available to do this paper and to do the many papers that he's already done, and all the ones in the future. And may we pass this information on to others, and we are so grateful for this opportunity, and we're so grateful to come together and study your word. In your name, Jesus Christ, Michael of Nebadon, we pray and give thanks. Amen.
Amen. And y'all at home, thank you for joining us. Please come see us again. And hopefully the other papers will be a little smoother next time. Yeah, this whole thing. Stop the video here.